Okay, so this one's a little bit of a surprise because I actually don't own one of these ships. But this is the Aegis Reclaimer. So I am guessing this one is probably a subscriber ship of the month along with the Vulture or something. I can't think of another reason why I would have this in my fleet at the moment. Yeah, honestly, can't think of one. But the Aegis Reclaimer, we do have one in our org, at least one that I know of. But ironically, that guy does not yet have a computer that can run Star Citizen, although he has it as one of his goals to get one in the near future. I actually gifted him one of these as kind of his ship. He's a huge Aliens fan, and this ship has very, very strong intentional Nostromo vibes, which he's actually got a Nostromo hat. So yeah, definitely one of those ships that I got for a friend. Now the Reclaimer, you might notice that it does have some guns. It's definitely not a combat ship. I am guessing when armor is in, it will be able to handle its own, but that is not the purpose of this ship. And again, a lot like a few of the ships I'm going to show you. So you can see it's got another turret there, and it's got a huge turret up top, which I'll see if I can get far enough back to show it to you. I don't even know if this thing will take off in atmosphere. So you can sort of see it's got a big turret up there, and then it's got the salvaging lines right there. It's got this giant claw that doesn't work yet. This is one of those ships that you absolutely do not want to take out solo. Just don't do it. It's tempting at this stage in the game, but you'll be running all over the ship trying to unload boxes and put them in places. And you can see the cargo bay where stuff is going to be spit out is back there. You will be sitting up here. That is a lot of running to do and probably not worth your time. Let's see, go up. Weirdly, one of the older ships in the game right now, but still holds up. It's got a really cool interior. Again, like a Hammerhead, I'll kind of take you on a really quick tour. That is eventually where all the vehicle munching will be done. So you'll have somebody stand here. I would say efficient. This is where you stand to actually operate the scanning station. Okay, never mind. I think, yeah, this is where you sit to actually control the salvaging beams is right up here. So you'll be sitting here, and then you'll have to run. You'll have to go up there, back, run all the way to the back of the ship, which is on the other side of this, take that down, go into the cargo bay, and unload boxes from there. Don't run this ship solo. At this stage in the game, I'd say that you could probably get away with 3 people. Eventually, you would definitely want a crew of, I would say, at least 7. So 2 people in the cargo bay, 2 people operating the beams, at least 1 person piloting. Probably you would really want people in those turrets, honestly, because this thing, like the Band Merchantman, is gonna be a giant loot pinata. So just be aware of that. Again,
You are clear to launch.
I don't have one of these, but we do have one of these in the org. So if you would like to do salvaging, or if you've got an entire cell, basically a group of about 5 or so people, what we would probably do is run this ship, which looks like a giant spider when it's crouched, like a big tarantula. We would probably run this ship as a cell. Oh, and I've got to show you this. Look at those lights. Yeah, turn those off. Now the interesting thing, can we actually take off? Oh, we can, look at that. And don't expect that to be the case when tractor beams come into the game. I'm gonna leave us in VTOL for a little bit just to get us some height here. But yeah, like I was saying about cells, essentially we would run this ship and all of its crew as one cell, and then we would team you with a cell that would be like an escort cell or like a refining cell, fuel cell, that kind of thing. So you'd basically have a bunch of cells that would be around to support one ship. And that would be a supercell. And that supercell would basically be clustered around this one central capital ship. So let's go ahead and see if I drop out of the air. I didn't, that's good. Now this thing is really, really damn slow. Like, yeah, you can see we are going 50 right now. And it is gonna be going 50 for a while. Thankfully, they have fixed the atmosphere at Orison so that it doesn't take 3 hours to fly out of it. So as we very slowly make our way out of Orison here, again, this ship, if you want like the big industrial ship feel, this is it. The interior of this ship is amazing. It has strong alien vibes. Very cool ship. It's gonna need support in the verse. A lot like the Man of Merchantman, it is just, it's gonna need the assist in order to survive it. You can sort of see, while there are some turret coverage, like there are some significant blind spots. So there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 turrets on it. So to completely command all of the weapon turrets, 7 people. There's 2 bridge slots, so that's 9. You probably need at least 2 engineers on this thing, so that's 11. Need a couple people in the cargo, so I mean you're looking at like 15 people to efficiently run this ship. It's a big girl. Max thrusters right now, we are moving at, well, 75 when it lines up properly. Not a racing ship. Does not turn fast. I would expect at a certain point, if you land it on a planet or a moon, you're not going to be able to get it off that planet or moon without the help of an SRV or 3. I did debate picking one of these up, but it's so far outside of my desired gameplay, and I already have enough big ships, and this ship wouldn't make sense as an escort to a Banu Merchantman, so I kind of skipped that. And I kind of want to be a little bit reliant on my org to help me out. I think that that's kind of important. Of course, I'll need the org in order to man all of the ships, like I was saying. So, yeah, this is a cool ship. When this game is working as intended, this will be one of the fun ships to go out in the deep dark in, for sure. Even if you don't have escorts, yeah, there are worse ways to explore the verse. So again, if you want the Gigantor ship experience, this is the ship to try. It flies like a big, heavy beast in all the good and bad ways that entails. All of your actions while flying it have got to be pretty deliberate, and you got to kind of plan your stops a long ways in advance. And of course, being a big boy, it lands on top of Grimhex in this gigantic hangar up here. So let's see if I can do this. Aegis Reclaimer, y'all. So yeah, pretty cool ship. Finally has a purpose in the verse and is probably the most fun out of the multi-crew ships. You actually have to use this thing in multi-crew mode in order to make it count. So one last thing I'll show you. Just kind of give you a sense of scale for this ship. That is the starboard landing gear. Thing is bigger than an Ursa. Just a big ass ship. That thing is really cool. There's also an elevator to the back there. That's a cargo elevator. I believe it's large enough to hold a ground vehicle. I think it'll hold an Ursa on its own. Don't quote me on that. I know it'll hold a bike. But yeah, big girl. If you're into the big industrial ship, if you like salvaging, that's the one to take. And I'll put you in touch with Pup Wolfie because he'll definitely be needing a crew. And he'll probably be needing a pilot because he is a horrible pilot. Thankfully, he doesn't watch my vids, so he doesn't know that I'm saying that about him. So unlike the Reclaimer, I do actually own this one. So this is the Aegis Redeemer. And a lot like the Hammerhead, this is a gunboat. Unlike the Hammerhead, you can tell that it's quite a bit smaller. Also, unlike the Hammerhead, if you have 3 people, this thing can conceivably be considered fully crewed, although you can run it with 5. If you have the pilot also controls a few guns. I believe the pilot controls this turret and these wing guns and the missiles, which I think the missiles pop out there. This is a manned turret and this is a manned turret. So if you take this thing out, definitely take it out with at least 3 people, because that's when it's most effective, when those turrets are there. It's not the most maneuverable thing in the world, but it is really effective. You can pop NPC hammerheads in this thing pretty easily. Some might argue too easily. Make sure I clicked the right button. I did. Again, you got your crew quarters down here. 4 people is about right if you want to run this thing efficiently. You got a little bit of room for cargo, which will probably be food. You got your little shoilet right here, which is always good. You got food handling right there, places to store your stuff, and a ladder, which I always appreciate given the jankiness of the elevators sometimes. Got your weapon there. You got jump seats for 4 Marines, I believe. This is all your components and access to the upper turret. That is about it for this. Again, this would be for now. There's your remote turret, guys, can sit there. So for right now in the game, this ship is pretty comparable to the Hammerhead, even though the Hammerhead has a lot more turrets on it. Eventually that won't be the case. The Hammerhead will have much longer range, much heavier armor, but for right now in the game, pretty comparable. I do own this one as, again, as an escort to my Banu Merchantman. This ship hits really, really, really hard, and that will never not be the case. So for a little history on this guy, the Redeemer was a community-made ship. There was a competition back in the day. Woo, what's going on? Let's get out of here. I didn't like that. There was a competition back in the day to design the next great starship. And this was back before, when the only thing we had in the game was the hangar module. So the only thing you could do is walk around ships. And so they kind of had this this competition for everybody to design ships. The people who made the Redeemer had a really kick-ass sort of ad campaign going to get this thing built. I preferred another version, which was called the Boomslang. If you ever talk or watch Paul Shelley, Astropub, he hates this ship. I wasn't wild about it, again, because I wanted a different one to win, and Paul Shelley wanted a different one to win, which was different from the one that I wanted. So I didn't really like this ship, but after flying it and using it, yeah, it's pretty useful. So it's definitely in my fleet. Again, this ship is not going to be my daily driver, so if you ever wanted to pilot the Redeemer, join the Carnival today. I will load this thing up for you and you can fly it around to your heart's content. And if you and two friends want to form a little cell and escort my butt around, it's an option. So part of the organization of the Carnival, and this is by no means static, is we have two general categories of combat ships, or of combat personnel, and they are the Hounds and the Bouncers. The Bouncers are going to be your escorts, your Marines, basically your muscle that defend ships. While the Hounds are the ones that'll be like the bounty hunters and the people that kind of go out. We know that there's a hostile, let's say, Kraken out there, and we need to pop it before it presents a threat to the Carnival at large. That is what the Hounds would be doing. Again, nothing's set in stone, so I mean, if you're a bouncer, it's not like you could never go on the offensive. And if you're a Hound, it's not like you could never be an escort. In fact, Hounds would probably be more likely to be one of the ones that are going out with a Reclaimer, because a Reclaimer will be going far out on its own. And that's more of what the Hounds do, is go out to protect the Carnival rather than sort of stay clustered in with the defense. But Redeemer, hell of a ship. It's going to have a shorter range than the Hammerhead, but it'll hit extremely hard for its size. I would assume this ship will be the kind of thing that will be killing Connie-sized ships or smaller. Maybe not light fighters. Light fighters will be the scissors to this thing's paper, or the paper to this thing's rock. But all in all, not bad. Flies pretty well. You can see it doesn't roll particularly fast. It doesn't yaw particularly fast. So you definitely want people in those turrets to make this thing count, or to use it to its maximum efficiency. Don't take this thing out and expect it to act like a fighter. So in a similar vein with the Aegis Redeemer, this is the Aegis Retaliator. So where the Redeemer is meant to blow up ships like, think Freelancer to Constellation size, and maybe even tangle with something the size of a Corvette, like it could definitely punch hard enough to hurt things like a Hammerhead, even when armor's in the game. The Retaliator is made to kill things that start at about the Corvette size. Now, some things I want to point out before I hop into this ship is note how many turrets this thing has. It's weird. There's like a glass thing here. So I'm going to run a little bit here. Man turret here. There's a turret here and a turret on the other side. There's a turret there and a turret there. I want to say there's another turret in the middle. Did I imagine that? Might have imagined that. I want to say there's another turret. But this thing has almost as much crew to fill out all those turrets as a hammerhead, which starts to hit kind of ridiculous levels. This ship is undergoing a gold standard pass, though, that's going to kind of clean up the interior. This is one of the older ships in the verse. But I would not be surprised if the thing that changes on this is the amount of crew it has. So you might lose a couple turrets in the gold standard pass, but you're not going to have to bring 7 people with you to pilot it. Some interesting things about the Retaliator. It does not have any pilot guns. The only thing the pilot controls is the mini Argos missiles. So you can tell it's got 6 there. Does it only carry 6? I thought it carried more. But it basically carries double the amount of firepower that the Eclipse does. Okay, so here you can get a little bit better sense. So here you got a little bit better sense. Let's zoom in a little bit here. So you can sort of see those 2 black things for whatever reason the texture isn't spawning in. Those are turrets. It's got that turret up there. It's got that turret there and another turret down there. So a ridiculous amount of firepower if you fully crew it, which I would say this is another one of those that you'd want a minimum of 3 people. You'd want the pilot and at least the 2 front turrets manned. But if you man all the turrets on this thing, so that turret and the 2 on top, this thing can throw out a hellacious amount of firepower. And granted, they're smaller, so it'll mostly just deter smaller ships like light fighters, which is kind of the point. But all in all, where the Redeemer is made to pop sort of medium to medium large targets, the Retaliator is there to pop medium large to very large. This thing, even something the size of a Polaris, is gonna be nervous with the tally in the water. And that's why I have it in my fleet. Is not only is she pretty, but she hits hard and she'll have decent range. She won't have good armor. I suspect she will have good signature, so she'll be relatively stealthy for a big ship. So if you think the Connie is a 10, this thing will probably be about a 5 on a signal strength. Again, just pulling numbers out of my ass. Just sort of consider this thing to be a little bit sneakier than a ship of a similar size. And this thing's about the size of a Connie. Again, it's made for longer ranges, so it should be able to keep up with the fleet pretty well, provided the fleet isn't all capital ships. It'll need to land and refuel, but not as often as like a light fighter, obviously. So this is Retaliator. Pretty good ship, pretty fun to fly. Again, I won't be flying this though. This is a ship that I got so that it could escort me while I'm flying around. Just as kind of part of that cohesive coverage to protect my big bloated loot pinata butt. So if you're taking out the Retaliator, and again, if you have 3 to 5 people, that's probably ideal for this ship. I would suggest when the game goes live, you would probably want a couple fighters in the mix just to kind of help dissuade any little fighters, because in the rock, scissors, paper game, this ship is going to be vulnerable to light and medium fighters. Even with the turrets, they're going to be able to zip in and out and boom and zoom you to death. But if you have even 1 or 2 fighters of your own, you should be able to do your job, and they should be able to protect you. And having just had a thought, this teamed up with a Redeemer would be kind of a nasty combination. This is also the kind of thing that you'd float out there with a Hammerhead if you didn't have access to a Perseus or something similar that's made for killing the big ships. While we're here, so for right now, that's where you get into the upper turret. This is where all the crew stays. So you can see here there's a room for 6 people, and then you have your captain's quarters over here. So all told, 7 people fully cruise this thing out. I would expect that to maybe drop when this thing hits its gold standard, which has been promised for a little while. One of the things that's going to change is right now there's a docking ring right here and here. That's going to move over to the starboard side, and the port side will still be this elevator. They're probably going to make the corridors a little bit bigger so that NPCs can navigate it. Other than that, have no confirmation on there being fewer turrets. I just wouldn't be shocked if that was the case. Just a ship this size requiring 7 people to run effectively is a bit much. So this one's interesting. This is the Aegis Sabre, which is one of my favorite light fighters. Unfortunately, it's not the meta light fighter. It used to be. I'm guessing it'll find its niche when scanning comes in, when stealth comes in, because this is the stealth fighter, apparently. It's got 4 guns. It flies pretty well. Just for whatever reason, the Arrow and the Gladius just eat its lunch. Otherwise, very cool ship. I have CCU'd this ship to another whoa! Did that to me again. Okay, maybe it's an Aegis thing. I have CC'd this ship. This is one of my first fighters that I ever got, was the Sabre, so it's got a special place in my heart. But over the years, I just keep CCUing it to other things. I have CCU'd the ship to a Gladiator, to an Anvil Warden, so I keep rebuying it over the years, and then I keep CCUing it. And unfortunately, this one is no exception, because this, I have a CCU to a Suntokii, which is definitely what I'm going to be taking over the Sabre. The Sabre will have its spot, though. And I do love the way this ship flies and just feels and looks. I mean, it is just a cool looking fighter. Who knows? Maybe I won't apply that CCU and this thing will stay in my hold. But again, not going to be my daily flyer. So this will probably end up sitting on a Liberator or Kraken. Probably on one of the platforms on a ship like that. Because part of that holistic aspect of coverage is you're gonna need those light fighters to kill things like a Retaliator, like a Redeemer, and basically just harass those medium to large fighters and bombers. Like, a ship like this is an ace at taking out a ship like the Eclipse, because the Eclipse is not going to get away from this thing, and it has a low enough signature that it's going to be hard to detect this thing when it's coming, and that is in the game right now. That this ship is not as quiet as the Eclipse, but close. It disappears if you go more than, like, I think 500 meters away from it or something like that. So it's got some pretty cool effects to it, on top of having 4 size 3 guns. So I mean, it packs a decent punch. It has decent missiles. Fun ship to fly. I mean, you can see it's pretty maneuverable. Not, look at that reclaimer that isn't showing up on my radar for whatever reason. And Sabre will definitely get you where you want to go pretty quick. But again, this ship will eventually be a cartel. But for right now, I'm having fun flying her around. I got the monkey skin for it. Not totally sure why, but there you go. That's what it looks like. Kind of got a Gorillaz feel to it, if you like that band. Yeah, if you just want to run local bounties, you can do a lot worse. 4 Panthers, 2 Thunderbolts, 2 Arresters, and that's it. So, not a huge missile loadout, but that's not really where the strength of this ship is. Strength of this ship is in its guns. Not the meta, but might find its niche once stealth comes back in. Hey gang. So you might notice that I'm wearing different clothing for this one, and that is because persistence doesn't always pay. After mentioning that I figured out that I was on the same server because there was a cutlass blocking one of the hangars on Grim Hex, I left one of the hangars to come back here and ran right into that wreckage. So yeah. Lesson learned. I'm gonna grab my body, which is hopefully still out there because I kind of like that armor, and not in this ship. So this ship is probably the most rare ship I own. This is the Sabre Raven, and its claim to fame is that it has 2 EMPs, and neither one of them is particularly strong. They always forget to update this thing's flight model. It's supposed to have the same flight model as the Sabre, but I don't think that's possible because it rolls really, really slow. I mean, I seriously think the Reclaimer might roll faster than this ship, but it is a very pretty ship. It's unmeltable. The only way you can get this ship is if you happen to buy an Intel Optane back when they first rolled out. And I happened to do that, and I am still running Star Citizen off of that card, and it was a pretty awesome card. Ship doesn't fly terribly. I am gonna test it out right now to sort of see. Pitch doesn't look bad. You see, it just doesn't roll as fast as you would expect a specialized ship like this to be. But this is still one of those ships that I'm probably never ever going to melt. It is probably going to end up sitting in the hangar on a Kraken or a Liberator somewhere, just collecting dust. The dual EMP is kind of cool because you can quick fire it, so you can hit something once and then immediately hit it again. But it is gimmicky. All in all, not a terrible ship. You can't get it in game. You will probably never be able to get in game. You'll probably never be able to buy it for money again. So this is pretty much it. She has 2 quarrelers, which I think are size 2s. So really does not hit hard. This ship's strength is, no one will ever call the Sabre Raven overpowered. Unless they do something phenomenal with her EMPs. Is a really pretty ship. You can sort of see they tossed a number on there. So maybe she'll be a good racer one day. I'm assuming, just given her profile, should have a pretty low signature. So if you take the already low signature of the Sabre and cut out some pieces, the Sabre Raven should be a quieter ship once that scanning is in game. Again, not going to spend as much time talking on this one because you can almost not find one of these at all. So, unless you can find someone selling an Octane. I have heard that CIG will still honor the coupons on these, or at least last I heard they would. So if you can find someone selling an Octane with this code on there, CIG may honor that. No promises on that, but I have heard tales. So the thing that we're going to do as we're swinging in here is see if my body is still there. I am not seeing the wreckage of my ship. Wait. Yep, here we go. But once we have a ship that we can actually grab my body, we will come back and do that. Just remind me down the comments. Definitely say Dawn Stealer. Don't forget to pick up your body, because that will definitely be helpful.
Landing gear deployed.